Commission meeting to order. It's 7:30 p.m. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of the Utilities Commission meeting of January 3rd, 2017.
I would move that we approve the Utilities Commission meeting January 3, 2017.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously approve the minutes. Operating funds on hand for the Utilities Commission. Total cash on hand is $968,256.14. Capital funds up for the water and sewer hookup is $589,000 for a total balance of $1,557,256.14. The next item of business, which isn't here but should have been, is payment of the bills.
I'll move that we pay the bills as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously approved to pay the bills, and that brings us to Bob Sykes' report.
Little Mayor and Council. Over at the wastewater plant, one of the air compressors that run the ENR filters has gone bad. It's got to be completely replaced. That's going to cost us about $7,500 with labor. I went around checking restaurants. We have an incident in town. I got a call from a septic hauler, and he said, "Bob, you got to come see this. The grease traps that you passed a resolution for back in 2015, everybody put them in, but they're not being maintained." I went down and I saw this grease trap, and it had not been pumped since it was put in, and it was in for 7 years. I'm going around visiting more, but when we did this, I went around personally, and I have a signed paper in my office from each and every restaurant in town that they received a copy of the resolution complete. And in here it states the requirements on the maintenance of the grease trap, the frequency that it has to be pumped, but nobody's doing it. I think one of the problems is there's a cost benefit to not doing it. And I think we need to look at putting some teeth into this so that if this isn't done, there is a penalty or a fine, which you can determine the length. If somebody goes a year without having it maintained, or the lack of maintenance caused a sewage spill, then it would be a violation of an ordinance. And then we could impose penalties to the amount that it would be more beneficial to maintain the grease trap than pay fines for it.
How much does it cost to maintain a grease trap?
If you get it pumped every 3 months, that would be 4 times a year, and every time you get it pumped, it's $300. So around $1,200 a year. But when the haulers pump these out, they write on the slip, the grease trap was 1/4 full, grease trap was 1/2 full. Well, if they're pumping it every 3 months and it's only 1/4 full, then they're spending money for nothing. So then we allow them to increase the frequency. Okay, you're only getting 1/4 full in 3 months, go to every 6 months.
Now, some of these people haven't pumped it in 7 years?
That's correct. That's correct.
So what happens if it's not pumped for 7 years, it gets full? Does that just go right into our sewers?
Yes, what happens is it stops removing the grease and it becomes just a flow through like a pipe. Because the capacity is already taken up with all the grease it can hold, you end up with a channel that goes from the influent pipe to the effluent pipe. And in this particular case, the grease was heavy enough that it completely clogged the line, leaving the grease trap. So if that's happening in the grease trap, we're also getting some buildup in the mains, and that's what we want to avoid. So what we have in place right now does give us an avenue, but it doesn't give us an avenue for any kind of fines or penalties until we get an order from the court. We would have to go to court and get the judge to say yes. It's created a public nuisance, and then a fee or a penalty can be imposed. But I think because this is more of a civil issue, there should be an avenue similar to, I want to say a parking ticket, but that, like any other civil ordinance, somebody with a yard that they're not keeping up, I don't know if we have to take them to court now or not, but I think we need to look at avenues of what we can do to make people more aware and more affable to maintaining these grease traps. But the grease traps are in. Every restaurant has one now.
And how much do these grease traps cost?
To put them in, it costs around $12,000 to $15,000. So they did the initial outlay, but the $1,200 a year maintenance isn't being done.
Just out of curiosity, how many do you think would have to be pumped every 3 months?
Probably 25%. The bigger restaurants, your McDonald's, your Taco Bell, places that do a lot of
Grease.
volume and grease would need to be pumped on a 3-month basis, and some of them have to be pumped more often. We have a couple that have to be pumped every 6 weeks and every 2 months. But all the restaurants are different in that they produce different, you can't even base it on the number of meals served because of the type of meal that's being served. Some create more grease than others. So I'll look into it and I can give you some options on what some other municipalities are doing. And I can email you some of the
Yeah,
options.
that's a good idea.
How many are problematic? I mean, is it something that is across the entire industry, or is it only a handful of restaurants who aren't following through with maintenance?
I started going around in Chestertown last week, and I stopped after 8 because none of them had been maintained. This resolution requires people to keep records, so that when we walk in, they can say, here, that's when it was pumped, and this is who pumped it, and this is how full it was. Nobody had that. But that's pretty important. It saves a lot of time. Then we don't have to find out who the hauler was and call the hauler and wait for something bad to happen. If people were maintaining the records the way they're supposed to, that's all we need to do is go by once in a while and check the records.
When you give them that resolution, did you explain it to them?
Yes, I did. The only place that there were some places where that was an issue because I explained it to the people that were there. And in some cases, that was a restaurant manager or whoever was in charge at the time. But I left a copy of the ordinance there for the restaurant owner. So everybody has one. I have a paper upstairs where it was delivered to each and every restaurant in Chestertown.
The signatures that you got, were they the signatures of the owners?
No, they were the signature of the person that was present at the restaurant that accepted a copy of the ordinance from me.
Okay. So it seems as if, some information is getting just lost in translation. Maybe the person who is responsible for maintaining the operations of that restaurant didn't get the overall memo. So there could be an education piece before we start slapping on additional fines.
I would like to think that, but over half the people that I talked to when I was going around to the restaurants were the owners. This is something where we delivered the ordinance, they have their grease trap in place, and I think it goes by the wayside. People forget about it, it's not in their memory. But part of that they didn't do is having a contract already set up. If you have a contract set up with a hauler to do it every 3 months, you don't have to remember it. The hauler's gonna get paid when he comes to pump it, so he's gonna come pump it every 3 months. So, I'll look at some options and I'll ask around some more. But as far as I can tell, whether the owner is there or not isn't the issue. They were aware of the ordinance, they just couldn't put their hands on it or
Right.
didn't know when. And in the case of the one restaurant I was talking about, when I originally delivered it, I put it into his hand, the owner's hand, and he still didn't get it pumped for 7 years. He didn't get it pumped until it started backing up in the kitchen.
I think it would be helpful if you got some data from other towns that have enforcement mechanisms And
Yes.
I would think you could make it a civil violation, which is, I mean, you don't necessarily need criminal sanctions, but you could make a civil
No.
violation.
No, I would prefer it wasn't criminal.
Oh, if they fail to obey the civil citation, then you can get them for a criminal violation for failing to, go through with the civil violation.
Again, the purpose with this isn't to give anybody a record, and I think making it criminal, that's what that would do. The whole purpose is just to make sure that people do it on a regular basis as it's needed to keep sanitary sewer overflows from happening throughout town. And that's what grease does. When a grease trap isn't functioning properly, that grease gets into the main and it combines with other things in the main. Pieces of paper, hair, it sticks to the walls of the pipe and collects on other things, and before you know it, it creates a plug and you have a sewer overflow in the middle of the street. So that's what we want to avoid. So we want to, I think, stress again, and I'll go around and deliver these again once we come to what a solution should be. And I'll include a copy of what that guidance is on failure to maintain the grease traps. Also, I handed out a menu. This is for a snack stand that's going to be opening up down in Radcliffe Mill in the smaller building where Mullen Ashley used to be, Benchworks used to be. What makes this different is they do have the physical space on the outside of the building for a grease trap. But because of the menu, there's not really a need for a grease trap. They're not cooking anything there, there's no fryer, there's no griddle, there's no ovens. All prep work would be done off-site. So I want to do with them what we did with the smoothie shop that opened up and have them use under-the-counter grease traps and maintain those on a regular basis. If they fail to do the job, we can still require the 1,500-gallon grease trap in the future. But right now, this doesn't look like a restaurant. It's not going to have seating. It's going to be carry-out. So it's more of a, I think a snack stand would be the most appropriate way to describe it. Coffee, hot chocolate, salads, boiled eggs, chips, stuff like that. So that's, the reason I'm bringing it to you is we haven't done this before unless there was physically no space on the property to put the grease trap.
And then how much is this system, under the sink?
I think you can get them done for around $600.
Okay, so it's not cost prohibitive like putting in a full
No.
grease trap?
It makes, for what this is, putting in a full-size grease trap may actually be prohibitive. And that's what we found out with the smoothie shop and Rita's. Some of the places that don't have the grease load of a full-service restaurant, this can, and their profit margins aren't that large, the cost of a full-size grease trap can be prohibitive to a startup.
I think that's fair. I mean, going back to the other grease trap issue, you know, it makes a lot of sense, especially considering what it can do to our mains and to our streets with a sewer backup. The only, outcry I fear is that, we will essentially be deemed as being anti-business by passing this issue. I mean, it's something that our local businesses, it's always one thing or another, and that really is kind of deeply embedded in the overall, way that businesses view government. So I definitely want to consider all of our options before we pass something with any type of fine. And I definitely want to see the redistribution of this ordinance and the education, if you will, before we head down that road. I mean, it's likely that we'll have to, just because it's our mains and it's a potential sewer backup at stake, but it's changing the perception of the town being anti-business. It's a pretty formidable task. I think we're doing a lot to counter that. So I definitely want to see educating first, and then maybe a clear explanation of why we're doing it because of the main issue and because of the sewer backup issue, and things like that. I don't know how we get that message out there, but it's important. It really is important.
Well, we have done that before we passed this ordinance, and I took it around after it was passed, and I talked to, not necessarily the owner, but to whoever the representative was. But if there would be participation, we could even set up classes upstairs for the business owners that either want to attend, or if you want to require an attendance by at least an employee of that business.
Well,
That's an option.
I don't see putting an ordinance in place as anti-business if it costs all of us taxpayers money every time it backs up in the street. You know, it's a little bit like stop signs. Everybody knows that you're supposed to stop sign. You're educated for stop sign. But you check with people, and the reason they stop for a stop sign is not because they're afraid they're gonna hit another car. They're afraid a policeman's gonna see them run through the stop signs.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with have a backup enforcement. I mean, you could give them a warning the first time. It doesn't mean you have to impose the fine the first time.
Yes.
But it's nice to have it there in case there are some people, you know, you lead a horse to water and he doesn't necessarily drink. There's some people who won't do it unless they're forced to do it.
So I can set up an education class, and it doesn't even have to be that long. What we're talking about is good business practices.
Yep.
Environmental stewardship of a business, how to maintain things so that you don't create a negative impact on the environment. That kind of thing can actually be done one-on-one when I take the papers around, as long as the owner's there. If not, I'll have to make an appointment with the owner or whoever his representative is that would handle that.
Sounds
So
perfect.
that's something that's pretty simple, that could be done as these are being handed out again.
I really like that idea. Perfect.
I think, I see where both you guys are coming from. I think I would like to see comparable fines for people that are in violation and combine that with Sam's idea of educating everybody what's at stake and what we're expecting of them and why we need them to do it.
Okay. And that's all I have.
Well, when are we gonna,
Oh, on the one the menu that I handed out, do we need a vote on that? This is an exception because, like I say, it's the first time we're allowing this, where there is, the way that the resolution reads is if there is not physical space for a grease trap, that they can be given a variance to use an inside grease trap. So this would be an exception to that, and that we are allowing this business to open without the full-size grease trap. And if you look at the menu is what it is, and the variance will be written to reflect what the menu is, and changes to that would have to come back for a change to the variance or a change to the grease trap that has to be used.
So
I don't know if that has to be voted on, but I just need to know, I want to make sure that that's okay with the mayor and council before I get approval for that.
I'm not a grease trap expert, so I'm gonna defer to your judgment on this, Bob.
Okay.
I think it sounds fair and reasonable.
Yeah, no, and I looked at the menu, I don't see any grease there.
It's a grease-free establishment.
The main thing you would see is fats from any milk products, and that's the only reason we had Rita's put one in. And they do get a lot of fat from the milk.
Okay, are there any questions or comments for Bob? Okay, I'm gonna close the Utilities Commission meeting. Oh, is there a motion to close the Utilities?
I'll move to close.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're unanimously adjourned. Moving right along. Okay, we're gonna open the regularly scheduled mayor and council meeting. It's 7:50 PM. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of the mayor and council meeting of January 17th, 2017.
Boy, they're thick. I'll move that we approve the meeting minutes as submitted for January 17th for the mayor and council meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? With the record show, we unanimously approve the minutes. Total operating funds on hand For unrestricted use, the total operating funds on hand are $1,579,426.54. Within that, we have assigned funds for waterfront initiatives of $180,480. We also have a separate account for donations to the Broadreach Sculpture Project, and the current balance in that fund is $37,290.34. Our next order of business is the payment of the bills.
I'll move that we pay the bills as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Our next item is actually a tribute. What was the date that Mr. Bristol passed away?
January 9th.
January 9th, yeah.
So we had a former, longtime member of the council, Mr. Jim Bristol, formerly known as Harrison C. Bristol Jr., but known widely as Jim, passed away earlier this year. So I think he served for almost 20 years.
12, I think, wasn't it? 3 terms?
Well, it's right in here. So, actually, some of us weren't aware that he had passed, and then his service came and went really quickly, and so it was kind of unfortunate that we didn't recognize his contributions at the time of his passing. I think it was just kind of a breakdown in communication. So, we've been talking to Marty and Mrs. Bristol, and we thought it would be appropriate if we basically read this proclamation in Jim's honor for his service. So I'm going to read this. Is she here tonight?
I called her and asked her if she would like me to pick her up. And she was supposed to call me back if she didn't make other arrangements. I did tell her she'd have to wait until the end of the meeting if I was to pick her up, so.
Well, we can wait in case you think she's coming later, and later on let the other.
I got a feeling that, she knew it was at 7:30, so.
Okay.
We can always read it twice if she.
We can call her and see if she.
Why don't I just read it into the record?
yeah, I'd read
If
it
she comes
right.
back, I'll read it to her.
Right.
So, proclamation, Harrison Charles Bristol Day in Chestertown. Whereas Harrison C. Bristol Jr., known to everyone as Jim, was born in Florida, grew up in Connecticut, attended Vermont Academy, then on to the U.S. Navy in 1944, serving in World War II, graduated from Dartmouth College in 1950 and was called to service again during the Korean War. And whereas after returning from Korea, Jim finally settled down and married his true love, Jane Jerry Kibler, in 1953. Together they raised 2 daughters. Jim always beamed with pride when he spoke of his family, especially his daughters Perry and Jane. And whereas Jim worked for Connecticut General Insurance Company and the Stanley Works, moving from Connecticut to Washington, D.C. during his career. In 1971, when Jim retired, he and his family moved to the Eastern Shore, where Jerry had grown up as the daughter of the famous coach Tom Kibler, an icon of the college and the town. And whereas Jim never stopped really working, continuing to serve in one capacity or another, and finally running for first ward councilman in Chestertown in 1992. He won the office and was sworn in on Monday, January 4th, 1993. While in office, Jim was known for his patience, wisdom, and gentlemanly demeanor. He made politics a pleasure. He was often the swing vote on matters of incredible significance for the town's future. Jim continued to serve the town he loved until December 31st, 2008, in spite of some serious health issues towards the end of his term of office. Whereas, in recognition of Jim's many years of service to the town and contributions to the local community, the mayor and council wishes to honor Jim for his exemplary service and for the bright light that his presence shone on everything that he did. Be it therefore resolved that the mayor and council of Chestertown honor Jim's memory by proclaiming Monday, February 6, 2017 as Harrison C. Bristol Jr. Day in Chestertown, thanking Jim posthumously for giving so generously of his time, by order of Chris Serino, mayor, with the town's official seal. So we all thank Jim for his service. Condolences to his family. Very well deserved. He was not a huge fan of Sultana's cannons, because I think his dogs howled a lot. But bygones. Environmental Committee, we have a gentleman to report on the Environmental Committee.
So thank you. I'm Shane Brill with the Chestertown Environmental Committee, and I was asked to report on the advocacy and outreach that the committee's done over the past year, where we've gone and where we're going. So I'll just breeze through a bunch of stuff, and if you have any questions at the end, shout them out. So we started out by redesigning the website this past year, at least the environmental portion of the Chestertown website this past year. One of our big concerns is making it search engine friendly for anyone trying to find information about programs we're beginning to develop or resources we're making available. So just as one example, we have bios of our committee members, and the highlighted terms are all search engine friendly terms, environment related, that could lead people driving into this area. And we have that sprinkled throughout the environmental portion of the website altogether. We have, if you visit the main page of the Chestertown Environment site, I suppose, or the environment part of the Chestertown site, you'll see this take action section in the lower right. And I'll just highlight one example of what we have here. And we're going to continue to expand on these. These are essentially easy things that any people in the community can do to make a difference on individual subjects. Very easy steps. And we have corresponding videos of local figures talking about different subjects. Each video is under 2 minutes in length. And let's see if it plays this.
By local composting in our own backyard, we reduce the amount of material going into the landfill. We improve the soil's ability to retain water and nutrients. The less water and nutrients are running off into the Chester River. We get a nice pH for plants to be happy in. And it also provides microorganisms to provide healthy plant growth. Composting is easy to do. It's not messy, it doesn't smell, and anybody can do it. It can be as simple as a heap. You have a pile in the ground, and you keep adding material to and turn it annually. There are bins that you can put it in, and it just sits statically and decomposes. There are also a couple of different types of tumblers. The first step in composting is to have a way to collect kitchen scraps in your house. I have a small bucket that I store kitchen scraps in before I take it outside. You want to reduce the size of the kitchen scraps to around 2 inches square. Once I have my bucket full, I take it to the outdoor composter. And when I put it in the composter, I add some wood pellets to it so that it accelerates the rate at which the material is composted. As far as processing the material, when it's ready, you'll know, because it looks like really great topsoil. It's the right thing to do for the environment, it's the right thing to do for the town to reduce the amount of product that enters the waste stream and goes to the landfill.
And you'll notice a shorter URL, chestertown.com/environment. That will get you directly to that page, as well as if you just simply Google Chestertown Environment. Beyond that video, we have more videos in place on different subjects. You might recognize some of these faces here. And we have more videos under development, so stay tuned or subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Nice.
So of the videos we've done this past year, we have 730, well, you see the number of plays, over 700 video plays. We have a Facebook page where we push these videos out and also promote upcoming events. So this past year, we started a First Thursday series playing off the First Friday series. And it's either a talk or a film on an environmental subject. And we ended up getting lots of great support, or lots of great feedback throughout the process. And lots of ideas from people like, well, why don't you do this or this or this? You know, lots of energy behind it, it's getting some traction. So we thought, okay, why don't we take the final 4 events of the series and expand it a little bit and flesh it out. So we've padded the final season of the First Thursday series with the Shore Homesteading series. And that got a lot of great feedback. And it's, we got lots of questions. Are you going to do it again? Well, probably, because we got lots of good feedback. And we're considering experimenting with other themes and padding things out based on feedback of people. So at all these events, we try to keep careful track of all the metrics that we can. We've had 19 events, including Earth Day. One thing that we want to continue to develop are co-sponsors of events, because that's really how we build an audience and develop traditions locally. We've had probably close to 200 people attend the events altogether, where we had attendance sheets. Of those, over half requested more info on upcoming events. We have a bunch of repeat offenders who attend lots of our events. And one thing we do, in addition to Q&A sessions at the end of each event, we'll do a little Post-it note game where we pass out Post-it notes and little clipboards, and people can leave feedback about the film they just watched, or ideas they have that they'd like to see the environmental committee pursue, or the town pursue. And we take all that feedback and type it up and post it on the environment pages of the website. And we also email it to everyone who attended the event that night, so everyone gets to see what everyone else wrote. And so we have over 100 responses from people, like things they want to see happen locally, or things they're excited about or didn't know about. And among the top that are kind of recurring themes. Composting is a huge one. Waste reduction in general is a big one that just keeps coming up no matter what the talk is or film is. Local food, both food and water security. Pollinators, we're talking both honeybees and native bees and moths and butterflies and things. So lots of interest in these subjects, even when the topic at hand, the presentation didn't directly deal with that. These topics keep coming up. And so looking ahead, we plan to see what worked, keep evaluating, expanding where we go, keep collecting feedback as much as we can, and get more hands-on programs and workshops. So our first Thursday of this year is going to be in March. I invite you all to attend. It'll be Garbage Warrior. It's a pretty awesome film about this guy who builds earthships out in the Southwest.
Is that Ford?
It very well could be.
That's a legitimate question.
I'm legitimately asking you.
Small screen.
So save the date or save all dates for our first Thursday series this year. And visit the chestertown.com/environment page or our Facebook page for updates on more programs coming. So, thank you.
Are they
Good
here
stuff.
or Sumner Hall?
All over the place. So we'll announce.
Oh,
it'll
so you have to
vary.
go on the...
Yeah, so Garbage Warrior will be at Sumner Hall, but subsequent ones will be here or beyond.
Excellent. It's pretty impressive that you guys are pumping out all of this content. Being volunteers, you know, it's the town is really grateful for your passion, and really just spreading the word and spreading awareness about the environment. I think it's one of those things that people who live here in Chestertown truly value. And how many green designations do we have, Bill? Tree City,
Plant City,
and
Tree City.
Yeah.
We've had others in the past, but
right. So it's
30-some years, 35 years in Tree City. And recycling was basically, I was looking at the budget tonight about our door-to-door recycling, and we projected, I think, $55,000 this year, and I'm sure we're well over 60 with the, we have over a higher number than we've ever had before, thanks to Ford and the citizens of Chestertown.
So, yeah, the content, the videos look great. I love that they're under 2 minutes, so you can watch them, get all the content that you need. The Facebook page looks good. I'm monitoring that, so kudos to the environmental committee.
I think you do a great job, and I noticed that we have a few things here in the town hall that aren't anywhere else in Kent County: battery recycling, the small CFLs, and you must give out a lot of information, because when we see errors, we see people putting in the wrong things. They're still trying, but it's a lot less than it used to be. And I'd like to really get other entities, government involved in this. I'd love to see the county help more and have facilities for the same things, because we have visitors that come from a county or two away, bringing it, because they're concerned about the small batteries that they're bringing in.
And didn't we have those bins, those composting bins? Did we have those here at Town Hall at one time?
Well, through a partnership, we showed people how to buy those sleek black bins.
Yeah.
But that's not the only way to do it. But yeah, Ford, how many, they were sort of ordered through Infinity, weren't they, the black bins out front in the lobby?
Yeah, and we've sold all but about 10 of them. We sold them right at cost. It's like if you buy one in the store, it's about $100. We sell them for 45.
We still have the demonstrator out there if people are interested.
So if people want to buy those bins, just send them your way?
Yeah.
Okay,
Just contact us.
perfect. And then when we run out, we'll order more, I'm assuming?
Pardon me?
When we run out, we'll order more, so we have some in stock?
We get, I'm looking at others. We're about to set up a demonstration area. We've written letters to a bunch of compost suppliers
Okay.
to see if they want to give us a sample. We put our demonstration area. We're checking some others out.
Excellent.
Do you think we need a giant Ferris wheel that rolls compost in town?
Yeah.
People come from very far away just to see it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for that report. Okay, town manager's report, Bill Ingersoll.
Okay, I'm happy to say that DNR Waterways Improvement has approved our contract for Phase 1 of the marina rebuilding, mostly in the basin, but hopefully going around the corner, bulkheading, ramp, walkways, and travel lift. It took a little while, but I think we'll be able to work through the winter depending on where we're working and what we're doing. I do have special guest here tonight, Tom Sappington, who has been the street superintendent for 8 months, doing an outstanding job, is in the back corner trying to hide behind the pole. Tom, thank you for all that you do. He just came to just sort of audit a meeting, but he's been interested in everything he could be interested in, from his yard out to everybody else's yard. Mayor, I don't know why they have you down for my report. I was supposed to have, is David Start here? David's not here tonight. Maybe he got confused about the meeting. David brought me a proposal for a veterans plaque to go at the base of the War Memorial at the Cannon Park. And it basically will say Kent County residents who gave all while serving with the military in Vietnam, and it names the 5 individuals who were killed from Kent County. And I really think we'll wait till he gets back. We have a plaque at the base of the All Wars Memorial. It's the large black one in the middle of the Monument Park, and it has one bronze 10 by 18, I think, or 10 by 16 plaque that says who the donors were. And it's placed in front of the World War I side. I think this is a great idea. It has a lot of content on it, but I think that would be up to you and them. The downside is if everybody from other wars said, hey, we want to do the same thing, but I think we can do that. I think the number of victims or casualties, and they should be honored. So I'll just pass this around. You probably each know one of the 5, such a small community. They will fund the bronze plaque, and I would have Tom install it at the base, tilted to keep from oxidizing in the future. But it's probably about the size of a piece of paper, maybe a little bit bigger on the ground. And I just think that's one more thing we could do for the people who perished from here.
Where would this go? You said Cannon?
In the Monument Park.
Yeah, that's not.
There's a cannon.
On the Cannon.
We sometimes call it the Cannon Park. There's an all-wars memorial that we put up about 20 years
I
ago.
thought you were talking about Cannon Street.
Yeah, sorry, that is confusing. Some people call it the Cannon Park. I think it'd be a great thing, and I'll let David speak for himself when he comes again, so, all right, we'll have him at the next meeting.
Okay.
And that's my report.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. Just to tack on to Bill's Marina report, we've had, it's still not completely done, but the governor's budget did come out, and the town, we had requested $1.5 million from the miscellaneous projects category of the budget. We didn't get any money from that pod, but we did get another $200,000 grant from the Waterway Improvement Fund. And we also, probably the best news, got a $400,000 grant from the Department of Housing and Community Development Strategic Demolition Fund, which is going to be used to get us started on the new building that will be sort of the marina headquarters down there, where the current Williams Marine Building shed is located. I'm actually going to be in Annapolis tomorrow to try to chase down a couple other possible avenues of funding. So I don't want to make any final announcements on what we've got from the state in this fiscal year, because we won't really know till June when everything is completely finalized. But the money that we have, in addition to a USDA grant loan that we were formally approved at the end of December, gives us about, in addition to the $400,000 we'll be investing in the facility this winter with an older Waterway Improvement Fund grant and a match from the Armory money, will set us up for next winter a $1.6 million renovation that we hope will get the rest of the bulkheads done, raising of the grade completed, and hopefully the new docks. It's going to be close. We'll see where the bids come in, but it's not as quick as I had hoped this would take. It's we're going at the pace of government here, but we are making progress, and hopefully very soon, with DNR's recent approval, you'll actually start to see results happening on the ground down there. So keep an eye out there. I'm going to keep moving because I know a lot of you are here for other items. Why don't we go to board reports, and then we'll get to item 8. Liz isn't here, so why don't we start with Linda tonight.
Okay, I just remind people that the farmer's market is all year long. If anyone would like to volunteer for the Historical Society, it's open Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We need volunteers, an hour, 2 hours. And also coming up, and I mentioned this before, at Sumner Hall, the Smithsonian Museum exhibit is coming March 31st through May 19th, and it's entitled The Way We Worked. And they need volunteers, either docents, and if you would like to be a docent, you can go to a training session or volunteer in any other capacity for this very, very exclusive exhibit. There are only 2 places in the state of Maryland that were granted the location for this exhibit, and of course Chestertown is one of them. And then we have Chestergraw coming up February 25th, and I think it's going to be bigger and better this year. This will be, I think, it's 3rd or 4th year, I can't remember. But anyway, the Tea Party Festival is getting closer. We're now having meetings twice a month to get ready for the festival, and if anybody would like to volunteer for that, we meet on the first Wednesday of each month, right over here in the on the 2nd floor of the Visitor Center. So, or you can email me. My email's on the town website if you'd like to volunteer, and we can certainly find a place for you. Thanks.
All right, Sam?
Everything's going well. Our town zoning administrator met with Case, and he mentioned that the park in Washington Park that we're conceptualizing with the Washington Park Committee would be a good grant opportunity. So we're just wrapping up the final details, and then we should get a grant application submitted for that. So things are going pretty well in Ward 3.
All right. Marty?
All right, okay. On Friday, January the 20th, I attended the Chamber of Commerce 46th Annual Excellence in Business, and it was sold out. Now, the keynote speaker was the mayor. I don't know whether that had anything to do with this selling out or not. I was going to say something about stopping halfway through, but I thought better of it. But the mayor did a good job of giving a speech, and the people enjoyed it. On the 21st, I attended the funeral of Jim Bristol, and I mention it because Jim was in his last 2 years, well, my first 2 years on this council, and he was a true gentleman through and through, and he helped me immensely, and I think he was a good calming, mature voice on the council through some times when we would get ourselves in a fix, and Jim would come up with the right kind of answer. So he was the right kind of man for the job. Later that evening, my wife and I represented the town at the Queen Anne's County Rescue Squad. They seemed to really appreciate the fact that the town did send somebody there for that. And I've often said we have a really neat town. And I'm not saying that because I think the town government is so great. I think it's because of you, people like yourself, and the citizens, and certainly the people who serve on the rescue squad, who average about 3 or 4 calls a day. I just couldn't believe when they were making those announcements of how many calls they make. And of course, the volunteer fire company. You know, none of us could afford a fire company like we have if we didn't have those volunteers. And finally, I'm going to take a page out of the mayor's book. On Thursday, February the 2nd, the mayor and I attended a ribbon cutting, and his standard speech at ribbon cuttings is that there's not any joyous occasion that goes on in Chestertown when a new business comes in and when they cut a ribbon. And we did go up to the Sprint, which is going to be located in the Radio Shack, and they had a ribbon cutting, and it was good. It's great. It's one more business. And you know, I was on this council now for 10 years, and I was back to when we were closing stores. I mean, you could walk down High Street one week, and then next week there'd be 2 more places empty. So now it's great to see that we're I don't know if we have people standing in line for places, but I'll tell you, it's getting tight now, and it's great to see that. And that's pretty much it for Ward 4.
Well, I want to piggyback on Marty's last comments. We're actually, I know my first year on the council, we had business forums. We had a business forum for the C1 commercial area, the C2 commercial area, and the C3 commercial area. So that's something I want to revisit this year. And to that end, I've met with Kay McIntosh, who has reformed the Maryland Main Street program, which really kind of focuses downtown on the arts and entertainment area. So we're actually going to have another business forum with Main Street kind of being the host here at Town Hall, and we did set a date of Thursday, February 23rd at 7 o'clock here on the 2nd floor of Town Hall. So I'm going to be promoting that. It's not mandatory for you guys to come, but obviously if you can make it, that would be awesome. And the idea is really just to get everybody in the same room and see how businesses are going and ask for feedback on things the town could be doing to make this as business-friendly an area as possible. And again, the focus for this particular business forum will be on the Main Street area, which is really our C2 historic marketplace. So I'll be promoting that again on our next meeting, but it's not till the 21st and the forum's on the 23rd. So I thought I'd put a word in tonight. Okay, moving right along. Requests from the public to be on the agenda. We actually had 2 requests. The first is Elizabeth Rowan, pedestrian safety.
Thank you for seeing us tonight. I'm Elizabeth Rowan on 110 South Kent Street. And Emily, your address? Emily Mosen?
419 High Street.
And I'd like to say thank you again, and Mr. Mayor, Mr. Ingersoll and board, we appreciate the time that you're giving us tonight. We'd like to speak a little bit to you on pedestrian safety. Each of us, Mrs. Mosen and myself, has some personal experiences of how we feel the pedestrian safety could be improved. I think it's very much in need at this time to take a look at it, especially since as a community we're on the verge of doing some very wonderful things for its residents and for visitors. Before we start, I'd like to read our mission statement, if you would just hear me, please. Our mission is to establish Chestertown as a pedestrian-safe community. The business health of our community depends upon pedestrian safety. The downtown area offers shopping, restaurants, marketplace, numerous outside events throughout the year. Residents and visitors must feel safe on our streets. We are concerned by the near escapes of bodily injury friends and neighbors have experienced and personal property damages. The source of the hazard is speeding and inattentive driving. We believe the following objectives, once implemented, will aid in providing comfort and safety to everyone, including wheelchair-reliant persons. By making pedestrian safety a priority, we as a community gift ourselves a better quality of life while offering the same to visitors. Pedestrian safety within our community should be promoted for all who wish to walk, jog, bicycle, and stroll to the park, to the river, or to any of the many events offered downtown. And I'd just like to...
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
When you say that's your mission statement, is that your mission statement,
Well,
or are you representing a larger group?
We are
of residents?
representing
us right now.
Right now, but we
Okay.
would like to open it up and possibly have that as a campaign in town.
Okay.
I'd just like to add that I myself was hit by a very slow-moving vehicle while standing in the remnants of a crosswalk that wasn't painted.
Okay.
Mrs. Mosman had an issue the other day, her neighbor.
Okay, I moved here July 2015, and I came from a place that is very pedestrian conscious. And I noticed right away I would be in the crosswalk and one car would go by, five cars would go by. So I would start to, hail them, say I want to cross, and they'd wave to me as if I knew them. Anyway, I happened to need to go to the police department to request cones for my moving truck, and I said to the police officer, I said, can you tell me something? I don't understand. What is it that I need to do so drivers will stop when I want to cross the street?
Where were you?
Where was I? When I was talking to the policeman?
No, where were you when the cars were buzzing by? Was it-
Anywhere downtown here,
Okay.
on your main street areas that you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay? So he said, very animated, I got you. I bet I can tell you what it is. I said, oh, please do. He said, I bet you come from a place where everyone just stops for a pedestrian. I said, well, yeah. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, oh, I need to get a Maryland license, and I'm studying the book, and it says drivers need to stop for pedestrians.
Only if you're in the crosswalk halfway across. If
Okay.
you're on the curb, the vehicle has the right of way.
They don't know if you want to
You
cross.
cannot, just because you walk up to the curb doesn't mean the vehicle should stop for you.
Correct,
You
correct.
should stay on that curb until, the only time the car is required to stop is if you walk out on your side and there's traffic coming the other way, then they have to stop. So you're not a stop sign or you're not a red light. So you're supposed to stay on the curb until it's safe to walk across at least half of the walkway. People think that just because they walk up there, this is not Hawaii, traffic's supposed to stop. That's not true in the state of Maryland. You're supposed to stay on that curb until it's clear.
Okay, but you could, in many cases, you could stay there for quite a while, in my opinion. Anyway,
Well-
so I said, well, yes, and so he said, well, we don't do that here. I said, okay, so I left. I'm an avid walker. I will walk as far as the Unitarian Church. I'll walk over to the dog park. I'll walk all over. And I came to a meeting about a year ago where they were talking about the playgrounds and whatever. And I want to thank you all for establishing the playground on the bike trail and extending the bike trail. Those are wonderful things. Please don't get us wrong. We don't think that you don't care and you don't do anything for the locals. You do. It's very obvious if you listen to this whole meeting tonight. Okay, in our objectives, I have passed around numerous pictures there of different areas. I have listed on this sheet ones that are really, I believe, in the area that you're talking about, Mayor, of the Main Street area, with pictures of crosswalk signs that are barely there, if at all, or partially there. If you want to ask me about any one of them, they're all numbered. Just ask me and I will tell you why I put them in there. So we would really like, number one, new painting on all the signs, just straight up, or just go and make them bright, okay? We're also very interested in installing stop for pedestrian signs. I've noticed there's one near Emmanuel. We have a number of churches in the downtown area. People get out, cross in the middle, jaywalk this way and that way. And I think if we made the crosswalks more visible Therefore, they'd be more safe. I think people would tend to use them more than jaywalking. Another issue that we would put forth is the speed limit. As I understand, in the downtown area, this Main Street area, it's 25 miles an hour. I don't know about you all, but some people do the 25, but I don't think everyone does. So perhaps it would be in the interest of, in the Art and Entertainment District, going down to 20. Another thing that I experienced in Rhinebeck, New York, when you go to a crossing light, a light with a cross, don't cross sign, there they have it so that when you push a button, you're a pedestrian, you want to cross, you wait, all the traffic stops and all the pedestrians move at once. It's not the pedestrians on this side and then the traffic moves and then the pedestrians on this side. All traffic stops, so all the pedestrians move at one time. Maybe a little hard to understand, but it really works. I stood there and watched it and I thought, oh my gosh, why doesn't everybody do this? Because it really does make sense.
Especially with the turns, left-hand turn.
Yes, okay. On the pictures there, number 1 is High in Kent. And number 26 and 27 are pictures from an accident that took place last Wednesday. Linda, perhaps maybe you were notified of this, or the mayor. It was a potential fireball on High Street up there because it was a propane tank truck that came down, moved a parked car the length of a whole house from 423 up to 419, then came out a little bit, hit a garden area, broke a stanchion on a telephone pole, then was stopped at a person's porch. Meanwhile, took out part of the railings and the posts. If there had been a leak from that truck, my husband, who's an engineer, said probably wouldn't have blown out. But if there was a leak from that truck, that could have been devastating. And if anyone had been in that crosswalk, they'd be dead. There's just no way. And I'm sure, I don't know what else the driver was doing, but I'm sure he was going more than 25 miles an hour to cause that kind of damage that's further there. So we're asking you, we'll finish up, but we ask you to
consider
right.
our plea.
I have a question for Bill, actually. Some of these crosswalks that are, some of them are definitely like, we can fix, we can't do it until the weather gets warmer, which is one reason, like, they always look the worst. They always, this is the worst they look all year, because they've had wear and tear all year, and you can't repaint anything when it's 30 degrees because the paint won't dry. So there's definitely several of those that I think we can get right on in May or maybe even April. But many of those were on 213.
Lots of them are on state roads.
Which is,
And then-
I think a lot of residents don't understand, like 213, for example, is not a town road, it's a state road. So it puts us in a tough spot because we get a lot of these types of comments
It's a
about.
state road out here, too.
And Cross is also a state road, so it's really a state maintenance issue, and we can be as annoying as possible, but we're a really small town dealing with a very large state bureaucracy, so oftentimes our requests go unfulfilled way longer than we would like, so.
But 213 is going to get redone by the state highway this spring, I think.
213, how far?
I think all the way up from the bridge up.
Okay.
That's a good time to put elastothermic markers on. They last, and that's what the state uses. Same way with Cross Street here. And I think your ideas are great, and thanks for sort of inventory. And we have the chief of police and the street superintendent, so they probably notice this a lot, but we can do better. We can definitely do better. When we have focused our attention before in front of the post office where there was a specific pedestrian need, and we put out the pedestrian safety things, and we tried yellow and we tried bright white. I don't know which is best. People are still ignoring. I can walk right by the pedestrian sign here in front of Emmanuel Church, and people will wave at me, just like you say. They'll wave. I'll be out in the middle, Marty, and they'll wave. So It's a joint effort. I mean, the paint's got to be bright, but so do the people. I mean, basically, around here, everybody, if you say the speed limit is 25, they're doing 35. So, I mean,
Mr. Ingersoll, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think this is where we've come in with a campaign. And I think if it's promoted that Chestertown is not only an arts and entertainment center and a historical center, but it is also a pedestrian safe community where people that are visiting or traveling here or residents can jog and walk without fear of
I'm trying to
getting-
join your campaign. I'm
So
agreeing with you.
can we create one?
Well, I say we have the key people here. And if our mission is, if we're about to repave, then we make sure it's in our specs that it gets all the markings, permanent markings. For us, we use paint. We don't have the meltdown practices that the state does. But for us, as soon as we're able to paint in the spring, we should be painting these intersections. The gas truck is an anomaly. That is not fair to blame on anything, and I'm sure that the chief can't comment on that. I just learned about it today and the damage that was done, but that was not really had anything to do with paint markings on the street.
We could say that
Nope.
was driver error.
Yeah, but I am 100% in favor, and thank you. This inventory is.
Yeah, the pictures are
it's
great.
help- it's
That's a lot of
helpful.
work.
And I
Just a lot of
want
work.
to keep the pictures so that
Yeah,
Tom
can I
can
make a
have them.
copy? Do you have a
No,
copy?
I have a copy.
We will
Okay,
send,
great,
we will
yeah.
send the ones that are state markings to Greg Halsey in color and say, please help us, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And maybe they can help us with the more sophisticated processes that last longer.
Yeah.
And I'll just speak for Mrs. Mosman and myself. If you need volunteers to help out in any way, I know we could give your time, give us your time. We would give you our
Your
time.
your inventory is great. It's what we need sometimes. to
I
mobilize.
wanted to add, at the intersection of Morgneck and 213, okay, State Road, not State Road, I don't know.
It is.
But the only crosswalk is up by the Tractor Supply. And there are people, and I have seen young children coming back in the summer with their ice cream from the Freeze place, trying to cross. It is death.
It's
It is
hazardous.
very dangerous. I bike out there and I have to get to the bank, go down to Greenwood, cross Greenwood, go back behind the motel to get up to the crosswalk. And people might say, well, Emily, you're the only one who bikes out there, so what's the problem? Well, I'm not sure, because guess what? Walgreens has a bike rack there for people, and Acme has a bike rack, Redner's has a bike rack. So I'm probably not the only walker or biker around. So, I don't think we can err on the side of being safe. And college kids, especially the Asians, you'll see groups of them all huddled together trying to get across the street. It is dangerous there, so.
Well, last year, we did have a task force with the State Highway Administration, and we had representatives from each ward, and I took pictures of my ward and everything that needs to be fixed, including the deteriorating sidewalks on Washington Avenue. So they've already gotten some of these pictures, but like Bill said, some of our roads are state roads and some are town roads. But I would like to see the speed limit downtown down to 15 miles an hour. If I could put it at 15, because I'm in the park a lot and I see people obeying the speed limit, and then I see people flying through this intersection. And I did many years ago, witness a horrific accident right there at that intersection where the lady went up into Memorial Park because a pickup truck came flying through the intersection. There's no place for a car to fly in that area because it's so tight, and especially on Saturday morning. And I have really taken it upon myself. I mean, I used to rush around town. I will drive 25 miles an hour coming down Washington Avenue, and I think if we get the word out, if we all drive 25 miles an hour, and then sometimes when you're downtown, and that still looks like it's fast, but just obey the speed limits or go a little slower, because I'm on the Western Shore 4 days a week, and it's a coming across the Bay Bridge, it's 50, it's 40, and then it's 50, and people will go 65, and it's like a racetrack across there. And I've said to the governor before, if they could enforce the speed limit on the Bay Bridge, Maryland would be the richest, have the richest state highway administration in the country, and then we would have more highway user funds for the local municipalities. So it's just,
You know, I wasn't sure how we would be received, really. But so I thought, okay, well, if people think that we're really over and above the
No,
top,
you're
you know,
not, because-
I would challenge people, walk this town at every crosswalk, with a light, without a light, and see.
there's not that far to go.
No.
I mean, if you're coming
But-
down High Street, you know, I don't even know whether it's a mile, it might be a mile long, and the same way on the cross streets, but,
Outside, the pictures are very helpful, because
Yeah.
you can't argue with it.
Good, good. Happy for
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Just one indication of a high rate of speed on High Street. You talk to anyone who lives along High Street, has property there, they'll give you stories about mirrors on their cars being bashed.
Yeah.
People are taking to parking halfway into the grass strip there to avoid cars coming. If they were slower, you wouldn't be losing that many mirrors on your cars.
Okay, the next item,
you're road to
oh, sorry, was there another handout?
It's,
Yeah, Tom?
Yeah, I just want to let folks know that I do have that on my agenda for when the weather gets better. We're going to paint the crosswalks and the curbs one ward at a time. So it will be done in the spring.
That's good for you guys. If it's on Tom's list,
It's gonna get done.
that means it's gonna happen.
just a quick comment on 213. It is a state highway. We had the representatives in here one time because people were complaining about the lights holding traffic up and backing across the bridge. And his statement was, well, if you drive 30 miles per hour, it'll be green all the way through when you go through because it's set for 30 miles per hour. I said, you realize the speed limit at Washington is 25 miles an hour? It was like, I didn't know that. And this was a representative of the state road.
Okay, is there anybody here for item 8B, the sanctuary city item? Because we had a gentleman, Tim Fields, request specific, is that you?
We called earlier and deferred to the next meeting.
Yes.
Wanted a little more time to prepare for that.
Okay, is that what you still would like to do?
We'll pass for this evening and
Okay.
defer to 2 weeks from now.
If anybody is here for that issue and still would like to say something because you just sat through an hour and 10 minutes of Chestertown bureaucracy, I would happily open the floor. The reason this is on the itinerary is after the travel ban, I'll just say, there's a lot I could say. It wasn't a good look, I think, for the United States when old women and little kids are getting arrested in our airports. And it obviously upset a lot of people, including many of you guys. And I probably got more emails about that on Monday, even though it's a national policy that was affecting everybody. It always trickles down to our local level. And so a lot of people, I think, in just sort of wanting to do something to make the situation better, wrote emails directly to me saying, would you consider designating Chestertown as a sanctuary city? So what I replied, I probably got 15 of those emails. That's probably more emails I've ever gotten in a single day about a single issue in my 3+ years as the mayor. So whenever I get that much feedback, my initial response is you really should come to a meeting because I can't do anything unilaterally. And I'm definitely willing to let you say whatever you'd like to say in front of the entire council. So if anybody would like to speak tonight, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, we would be happy to move that to the next meeting. I've done a lot of research on it. I think it's being a sanctuary city is an interesting proposition for us, given our size and our location, and the fact that I don't know how much of an issue undocumented immigrants really are in Chestertown, per se. So I think that's something to consider. But I would be interested in, we live in an open democracy in Chestertown, and I'd be happy to let people voice their views and opinions on this. So, does anybody want to say any words tonight If not, we'll happily move this to the next meeting.
And that would be when, sir?
It's, usually it's the third, would be the third Monday, but it would be moved to Tuesday, the 21st. Because the 20th is President's Day, so it's a federal holiday.
I hope I put.
So it'll be the next meeting will be Tuesday, February 21st at 7:30 PM. And what I would say, just to temper expectations, I think it would be more of a listening session and an airing of views, pro and con. I'm not committing to anything, but I will happily give a forum to my constituents, especially when I get that much feedback about something. I work for you guys.
If you show up in this big enough, I think we should put a limit of like 2 minutes a person.
Yeah. We'll have to, if everybody wants to get up and say a few words, we probably give everybody a 2-minute limit that everybody ignores, and I have to gavel people. We'll give it a shot. Okay, so if everybody's okay with that, yes?
I would just like to take the opportunity to ask.
Sure.
How much of what we discuss next time would be, well, this isn't a town issue, it's a county or state issue or national issue. And maybe if Chief Baker could let us know what their protocol on a day-to-day basis is with...
Well, I think that would honestly need to be part of the discussion, because I think a lot of people hear Sanctuary City and they think that we would have a ton of power to do a lot of things, and in reality, I've done a lot of research on this, it's really more of a county issue and ultimately probably more of a state issue. And according to Sam, there may be legislation on the state level that would supersede what we're even
State
with the...
Senator Ramirez is working on that, and it should come up this week to be discussed. So we actually could do better to have this meeting 2 weeks from now, because that will be in the works, so.
Okay. Yeah, and I think part of the meeting, from my point of view, would be to clarify just what that would even mean if we were to take that step. Because I think I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what it means to be a sanctuary city. Okay, so it sounds like the plan is, people are interested in coming to the next meeting, which again is Tuesday, February 21st at 7:30. And that's the last item on the agenda. So are there any questions or comments from the audience?
I have a question,
Okay.
actually. It's not related to sanctuary cities. It's more related to the ladies who were doing the traffic question. I've been rather baffled at the left-right turn things in this town. In most places...
Which one?
Well, out here for one, and
that's the worst.
In college for another. Normally, you make a right turn from the right lane,
Yeah.
and you go straight or make a left turn from the left lane. But that doesn't seem to be the case here, and there's a lot of confusion. People don't know, like if I'm here and I want to go straight, I don't know if somebody's going to turn in front of me or not. And it's
talking about crossing 213.
Crossing 213 at both places.
Oh, this
And,
intersection's a
I don't know what
nightmare.
to be done about that. But it's
This intersection is designed to fail. It's terrible. It's a state issue, and what really needs to happen is there needs to be a third lane where 7-Eleven's parking lot is for a right turn, so that the people that look like they're going straight go straight, and the people that are on the far left actually turn left. Because right now, if I'm going straight to my house, I have to diagonally cut across traffic, and they think I'm turning, and then we both hit our brakes, and I can't even tell you how many near accidents I've had to.
Right,
So that's one of those really frustrating state issues where it's just a poor design. It always has been. The volume was probably 80% less when that intersection was made many years ago.
There doesn't seem to be a left turn signal.
There
If you're
isn't.
going across this way, there's only a left turn signal if you're going up 213.
Yeah.
Which is also...
It's a mess. I totally agree with you.
I want to pass something on to people that, it seems to me there's, and half the drivers don't know this. If you go up to an intersection and there's a red light, and this cross street one is the perfect good example, because we have lots of traffic going every direction. And the light is green for you, but you can't turn because there's traffic coming across you. You go out to the middle of the intersection. The car in the intersection has the right-of-way. So if the light changes while you're in the intersection, even if it's green for them and red for you, you're in the intersection, you can make your turn. I don't doubt how many times I've sit behind people and the light's green, but they won't move, and then it turns red again, and they're still sitting there. At least I would be one more car closer. Linda's one of those. She sit there and sit there. And I said, come on.
That's you're out of line.
That's just.
I told her, I said, move out in the intersection.
No, I
All right, I'm gonna have to break this
Flipped
fight up.
up.
Are there any other
I have a brand new
questions?
car and it's already been
I
hit.
have a question, this is about traffic, not about downtown, but about traffic. Obviously, they're breaking ground on the Royal Farms.
No.
I've heard so many rumors, what is going to happen there? Is it gonna remain a circle, is it gonna become a traffic light?
Still a circle.
Still a circle, okay, I was just curious.
Will it be widened?
Nope.
It's definitely gonna be, the reason that hasn't been built for so long is because they were working with SHA on how that's gonna
No, I
work.
was just
Yeah,
asking.
There's a western entrance, and there's one at the top, like the 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock, depending on how you look at the roundabout. Anytime you want to come look at the plans, you can, but you'll pretty soon find out. And where did Ruth go? Ruth still here?
Yeah, she's right here.
Hey, so, and we're gonna try to get those 2 trees moved, either with Tom or with the developer. And reused.
anybody else?
I've got just one thing that I've observed. One time there, on one of the meetings I was here, they announced that they're gonna put a speed sort of sign up that tells you how fast you're going. And, you move those around, and I think they're pretty good. But the officer that informed us also said that, okay, the speed limit is 25 miles an hour, but we won't give them a ticket until they go 11 miles over the speed limit. That might make sense at 55 miles an hour or something like that, but at 25, I understand that there's like a big difference if you get hit by at 25 mile an hour or 35.
That's gotta be the dumbest policeman I ever heard
No,
of.
that's the speed camera. The automatic camera, it's 12 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Yeah, that might be what he was talking about.
You get an automatic ticket, 12 miles an hour and over. That's what he was saying, not people doing that.
Right.
That's
Every police officer has a tolerance that they allow people go. I wouldn't even tell my wife my tolerance, I can tell you that right now. And no good police officer is gonna tell you how much you can drive over the speed limit.
Well, I was surprised by that announcement, but I think that, if that's 12 miles an hour, and it's supposed to be with it.
I did write her a warning.
I think they could lower that tolerance just over a little safer.
Negative.
Okay, any other questions? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Sam, don't leave.
Okay, we're adjourned.